What if everything in your life could improve, not by doing more, but by worrying less? Think about it. How much of your day is spent replaying mistakes from the past? Or stressing about things that may never even happen? Centuries ago, a man named Michel de Montaigne, a 16th century French philosopher, faced a world full of wars, plagues, and uncertainty. Yet he discovered something timeless, that most of our suffering doesn't come from reality. It comes from our own thoughts. Montaigne, one of the fathers of modern skepticism and self-reflection, believed that when we let go of unnecessary worry, life doesn't fall apart. It falls into place. And in this video, we'll explore how his philosophy can transform the way you think, live, and find peace in a chaotic world. Chapter 1. The Nature of Worry. Worry. It often feels like a shadow following us everywhere. But what is it really? At its core, worry is the anticipation of pain, the fear of the unknown, and an over-attachment to control. It is our mind's attempt to protect us, but it often ends up holding us hostage instead. Healthy concern versus paralyzing worry. There's a difference between healthy concern and destructive worry. Healthy concern helps us prepare, like double-checking if we lock the door. But paralyzing worry keeps us from sleeping, working, or enjoying life. It doesn't protect us. It drains us. The energy drain. Psychologists describe worry as a thief of mental energy. Every time we cycle through what-ifs, we burn creativity, focus, and joy. We believe we're solving problems, but really, we're circling the same thoughts without moving forward. Modern psychology. Science confirms what Michel de Montaigne noticed centuries ago. Overthinking, anxiety loops, and chronic stress are linked to higher risks of heart disease, weakened immunity, and mental exhaustion. Our bodies pay the price for our restless minds. Montaigne's insight. Montaigne observed, most of our fears never actually happen. We suffer far more in imagination than in reality. The storms in our minds are often bigger than the storms in the world. And when we recognize this, worry begins to lose its grip. Chapter 2. Montaigne's life and context. To understand Michel de Montaigne's wisdom on worry, we need to step into his world. He was born in 1533 in France, a time of constant conflict, wars between Catholics and Protestants, outbreaks of plague, and political instability that shook the foundations of society. Montaigne, the writer. Amid this chaos, Montaigne retreated into his family estate and began writing what would become his life's work, the Essays. These were not books of rigid philosophy, but personal reflections on human nature. Fear, death, love, and happiness. He wrote not as a teacher handing down answers, but as a human being wrestling with life's deepest questions. His skepticism. Montaigne was a skeptic, not in the sense of rejecting everything, but in questioning certainty itself. He asked, what do we really know? By loosening his grip on absolute truths, he found a freer way of living, one less tied to fear and worry. Personal tragedies. But Montaigne's philosophy wasn't born only from books. It came from experience. He lost his closest friend, Etienne de la Boétie, at a young age, a loss that haunted him for life. He also nearly died himself from a horse-riding accident. These brushes with death reminded him how fragile life is, and how pointless it is to spend what little time we have in endless worry. Instead of fighting against uncertainty, Montaigne chose to embrace it. He saw that life's fragility was not a curse, but a reason to live more fully. In the midst of war, plague, and personal grief, he discovered the art of letting go. Chapter 3. The Psychology of Letting Go. Montaigne once wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. In his view, our minds invent dangers greater than the ones we actually face. Centuries later, modern psychology confirms this. Worry often exaggerates threats and traps us in loops of fear. Modern psychology. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, teaches people to challenge distorted thoughts. Mindfulness trains the mind to notice worries without clinging to them. Neuroscience shows how chronic worry overstimulates the brain's fear centers, making us see danger everywhere. What Montaigne observed intuitively, science now explains with precision. Habit versus choice. Worrying feels automatic, but it can become a habit. Over time, our brains wire themselves to expect the worst. Montaigne reminds us this habit can be broken. Letting go doesn't mean we stop caring. It means we stop rehearsing pain that hasn't happened yet. It means choosing presence over panic. Letting go carelessness. To let go is not to be careless. It is to focus on what we can control and release the rest. It is the difference between steering your ship and trying to control the wind. Montaigne believed freedom comes not from domination, but from acceptance. Parallels with Stoicism and Buddhism. Here Montaigne's wisdom intersects with other traditions. The Stoics taught that external events lie beyond our power, but our responses are ours to command. Buddhism teaches non-attachment, freedom from suffering by loosening the grip of desire and fear. Across cultures, the message is the same. Peace begins where worry ends. Closing reflection. When we practice letting go, the world doesn't collapse. Instead, it opens. The mind, once consumed by storms, clears into a calm sky, and in that calm, life begins to flow again. Chapter 4. Why everything improves without worry. What happens when we stop worrying? For Montaigne, the answer was simple. Life begins to breathe again. In every area of our existence, relationships, work, health, and even decision-making, things improve when fear loosens its grip. Relationships, less control, more authenticity. Worry in relationships often shows up as control over how others see us, what they think, or how they act. But the more we try to control, the less authentic we become. Montaigne believed honesty, humor, and imperfection made us more human. When we stop worrying about appearances, we create room for real connection. Work and creativity. Worry kills flow. In work, worry silences creativity. When we overthink, we freeze. But when we relax into freedom, innovation emerges. Montaigne himself wrote his essays not as polished arguments, but as living experiments. This freedom to explore without fear of failure is the seed of all creativity. Health stress damages, calm restores. Science tells us what Montaigne sensed centuries ago. Worry is poison to the body. Chronic stress raises blood pressure, weakens immunity, and shortens life. Calm, on the other hand, restores balance. Letting go isn't just a mental shift, it's a physical healing. Decision-making. Clarity from acceptance. When trapped in worry, we second-guess every choice. Fear clouds judgment, but acceptance clears the fog. Montaigne trusted his instincts more than endless planning. He believed wisdom is found not in predicting every outcome, but in living with uncertainty. In relationships, in work, in health, and in choices, worry only constricts. When we release it, everything expands. Montaigne's lesson is clear. Life doesn't require perfect control. It requires presence, courage, and trust in the natural flow of things. Chapter 5. Montaigne's Essays on Fear and Death. At the heart of most worries lies one ultimate fear, the fear of death. For Michel de Montaigne, this was not a subject to avoid, but to confront directly. He believed that by learning how to die, we also learn how to live. The root of worry. Think about it. Behind our endless concerns, money, health, safety, reputation, lurks the shadow of mortality. Every worry whispers the same question: what if this ends me? Montaigne saw that as long as we run from death, we remain prisoners of fear. Montaigne's radical idea. His solution was radical. Instead of denying death, we should practice imagining it. By reflecting on death, he said, we strip it of its terror. Death is not a failure. It is the natural end of life. And once accepted, it no longer dominates our thoughts. Stoic parallels. Montaigne's insight echoed the Stoics. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he was mortal. Seneca wrote that rehearsing death frees us to live without fear. For both the Stoics and Montaigne, the acceptance of death was the key to freedom. Modern avoidance. Yet in our modern world, we push death aside. We hide it behind hospitals, polite silence, or distractions. But the anxiety doesn't vanish. It grows in the shadows. Much of our modern stress, our restless striving, is simply unspoken fear of mortality. Montaigne's lesson is timeless. We conquer worry not by denying death, but by accepting it. To make peace with the end is to live more fully in the present. As he showed us, when we lose our fear of death, we lose the root of worry itself. Chapter 6. Practical ways to stop worrying. Montaigne didn't just theorize about worry, he lived his philosophy. His method was simple but powerful. Write, reflect, and question. By putting thoughts on paper, He freed his mind from their constant noise, journaling as clarity. He showed us that writing is more than recording events. It's a mirror for the mind. Journaling helps us spot the patterns of our worries, exposing how repetitive and often irrational they really are. Reframing the story. Instead of asking, "What if everything goes wrong?" try asking, "What if things turn out right?" Montaigne practiced this mental shift, turning fear into curiosity and uncertainty into possibility. Mindfulness and presence. Today, modern psychology echoes his wisdom. Mindfulness, focusing on the present moment, breaks the cycle of anxiety. Neuroscience proves that when we anchor ourselves in the now, worry loses its grip, limiting fear-driven noise. Montaigne lived in a world of war and plague, yet he retreated into his library for peace. We too can limit our exposure to fear-driven news and endless alerts. Reducing the noise clears space for calm, daily practices. He also valued small, simple practices, gratitude to shift perspective, humor to lighten the heart, and slowing down to enjoy ordinary moments. These are not escapes, but ways to return to life as it truly is. The paradox of letting go, and here lies the paradox. When you stop trying to control every outcome, life often unfolds more smoothly. By loosening your grip, you create space for better outcomes to appear naturally. Montaigne's practical wisdom reminds us, worry fades when we question it. Replace it with presence and live with acceptance. And sometimes, the greatest act of strength is the choice to let go. Chapter 8. From Worry to Wisdom. The Bridge. What if worry wasn't the end of the story, but the beginning? Michel de Montaigne believed that worry could be transformed. In his philosophy, fear was not something to escape, but a starting point, a bridge leading us toward wisdom. Fear, reflection, wisdom. Fear alerts us. Reflection helps us process it, and wisdom helps us live beyond it. Montaigne's essays were not abstract philosophy. They were living proof that human anxiety can evolve into human insight. Humility. One of the first lessons he drew from worry was humility. He admitted he did not have all the answers, and that no one does. To worry less, he believed, we must let go of the illusion of certainty. Humility frees us to live with mystery. Acceptance. The second lesson was acceptance. Montaigne lived through plague, war, and personal tragedy. Yet he learned to accept that life is fragile and unpredictable. Instead of letting that paralyze him, he allowed it to sharpen his gratitude for each moment. Curiosity. The third lesson was curiosity. Worry shrinks life into a narrow tunnel. Curiosity expands it. Montaigne turned his questions about fear, death, love, and happiness into explorations that enriched his life and still speak to us today. Worry as wasted imagination. He wrote that much of our misery comes not from reality, but from our imagination gone astray. Worry is wasted imagination. It paints dark futures that rarely arrive. But wisdom, in contrast, is applied imagination. It imagines solutions, perspectives, and growth. The role of humor. Montaigne also knew that humor lightens the burden of worry. He laughed at human contradictions, our pride, our fears, our endless chasing of control. By laughing, he took away worry's power. He reminded us that we are all human, and that even our flaws are part of the comedy of life. So what is the path Montaigne offers? From worry to wisdom by way of humility, acceptance, curiosity, and even laughter. His philosophy teaches us that when we stop letting fear control our imagination, we can use that same imagination to create wisdom. And wisdom, unlike worry, makes life lighter, freer, and far more joyful. Return to the sleepless worrier. Let's return to the opening scene. The restless, sleepless worrier. Eyes wide open in the dark, mind running through endless fears, tomorrow already ruined before it arrives. The Montaigne way. Now imagine the same person, living Montaigne's philosophy. They journal their thoughts, question their fears, laugh at their contradictions. They do not eliminate uncertainty, but they stop letting it rule them. The same life, yet live differently, calmer, more curious, more free. Final message. Montaigne's lesson is clear. When you stop worrying, life doesn't fall apart. It falls into place. Call to action. So here's your challenge. Try 1 week of Montaigne living. Each day, journal one worry. Question whether it's real or imagined. Let go of one small fear and notice how your life begins to shift, not through control, but through release. Because life beyond worry is not only possible, it's waiting for you.